Welcome to the Business, Finance, and Justice Committee meeting. Today is Thursday, April 20, 2023. I call this meeting to order at 3 o'clock p.m. Invocation, Representative Mark Randolph, please.
Lord, we're thankful for another day that you've given us, Lord, and all the blessings that you send our way. Ask that you clear our minds and touch our hearts in goodness, Lord. Grace us in your healing ways, Lord. Guide and direct us in all that we do and all we think and that we say, Lord. And give you all the praise and stand before you in adoration and thanksgiving, Lord. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Representative Randolph. Before we get started, whenever you speak, please speak into the microphone because I know yesterday afternoon we had a hard time hearing if we zoomed in. Roll call, Legislative Clerk April Lindsay.
Patrick Freeman.
Here.
Sandra Golden.
Present.
Randall Hicks. Thomasine Uhola Osborne.
Present.
Mark Randolph.
Present.
Madam Chair, you got 5 present and 0 absent.
We have 5 present and 0 absent. This constitutes a quorum. All business conducted will be valid. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from March 16th, 2023. And when the committee is ready, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes with any necessary changes as needed.
We have a motion to approve the minutes from Representative Randall Hicks. Do I have a second? We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Patrick Freeman. Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. The minutes of March 16th, 2023 are approved. Next item on the agenda is order of business. TR 23-035, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation confirming the nomination of Amos McNack to serve as the Supreme Court Justice of the Muskogee Creek Nation. Sponsor is Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Chair, motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks. We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion? Representative Hicks?
Madam Chair, normally we just move these forward to the full council, so I would, if it's the pleasure of the board, just do the same, save the interview during that day.
Okay. Mr. McNack.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. McNack.
Good afternoon.
I don't believe the board has any questions for you right now. What we're going to do is ask you to come to our pre-agenda meeting on Saturday, April the 29th
Okay.
at 9 a.m. And that way the full council will be able to ask any questions they may have.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Patrick Freeman.
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. TR 23-035 passes. TR 23-036, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation confirming the nomination of Monty Deere to serve as the Supreme Court Justice of the Muskogee Creek Nation. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Chair, motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion, Representative Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, on this one as well, just do the interview during the pre-agenda on Saturday.
Is there any discussion from the committee? Mr. Deere, can you hear me? You probably heard me tell Mr. McNack that we're just going to ask you to come to the pre-agenda meeting at 9 a.m. on April the 29th, and that way the full council will be available to ask you any questions.
Yes, ma'am, I will be there.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Patrick Freeman.
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. TR 23-036 passes. TR 23-037. A tribal, excuse me, a tribal resolution of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the principal chief to submit a grant application to the Department of Justice, Office of Community Policing Services, COPS, 2023 COPS Hiring Program, CHP, grant program for the Light Horse Police Department. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks. We have a second from Representative Freeman. Discussion, Representative Hicks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have Light Horse Police, Daniel Wynn. Mr. Wynn, will you come forward and explain this legislation, please?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Representatives.
Sure.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. How do I sound?
Mr. Wynn, can you go ahead and just explain this legislation? I know it's maybe a continuous grant, but go ahead and explain that if you don't mind.
So what we're requesting through this grant is 16 additional officers, which will include equipment, uniforms, and such. However, the only thing that this will not cover will be police units, but it is, and it does require a 25% matching grant from, or fund from the National Council.
Thank you, Mr. Wind. Are there any questions of Mr. Wind? Representative Golden?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I know this is to submit a grant and to commit $2 million or $2.5 million. Has this been discussed with the commission?
I believe it has been sent. Commissioner Wind is on the Zoom. I'm sure he can answer.
Mr. Wind, if you'd like to comment, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. We have discussed it and we approved up 2-1 to go forward with this grant.
And this is to add to the number of people that you already have on board?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. 16 officers may not seem like a whole lot, but it's definitely what we're going in the right direction.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Any questions from the representatives online or in attendance? Roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. TR 23-037 passes.
Mado.
NCA 23-015, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation amending NCA 15-015, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation approving and authorizing the principal chief to execute and file the articles of organization with the Office of the Secretary of the Nation to form Muskogee Nation Businesses, LLC, under the Muskogee Creek Nation Limited Liability Company Act, and approving the operating agreement for Muskogee Nation Businesses, LLC. Sponsor, Representative Sandra Golden, and this is postponed from March 16th, 2023.
Madam Chair, motion to approve.
We have a motion from Representative Golden for due pass. Do I have a second? We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion? Representative Golden?
Yes, this was postponed the last time in order for us to get more information regarding other board stipends to see how this fits into everything, to all the other boards. And I think that information was sent out to everybody. And I would just like to say that I tried to amend it at that time and we didn't have the information, but we do now. So I would like to amend the legislation to make it $600 instead of $800. And that's my motion to amend
Golden, do you know what page that's on?
I had it marked on on page 14. 3.220. Paragraph.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to change the amount from $800 to $600 for the compensation of the directors of the board. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion? Is there any discussion within the committee? Representative Golden?
I'll just add that I think it's fair and it's the right thing to do based on the information that I received from that board. Their ability to move the company forward and with the experience and knowledge that they have on that board, I think they should be compensated for it.
Thank you, Representative Golden. Any other discussion within the committee? Any discussion from the representatives online or in attendance? Roll call vote, please, to amend from $800 to $600.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor and 0 against to amend NCA 23-015, again from $800 to $600. And that motion passes. Okay, we're going to go back to the main motion. Is there any discussion on the main motion? Okay, I'm going to call for a vote.
Sandra Golden,
Yes.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman. Madam Chair, you have 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-015 passes. NCA 23-025, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing the expenditure of grant funds awarded from the U.S. Department of Interior Division of Economic Development, Office of Indian Economic Development for the benefit of the Office of Marketing and Tourism. Sponsor, Representative Randall Hicks.
Madam Chair, motion do pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Hicks.
Second.
We have a second from Representative Randolph. Discussion? Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I'd like to give Zachariah Harjo some time to explain the legislation.
Jay Committee. So this grant is pretty straightforward. We were pretty fortunate to be awarded a 2-part grant to do some tourism and economic development feasibility. Specifically, the Tulsa region is primed to receive a large number of international tourists over the next several years, particularly with the centennial celebration of Route 66, and it's something that the nation hasn't necessarily made too much investment on in terms of our tourism initiatives, but I think there's a growing need for us to look into the international market in terms of not just tourism, but business in general, and this helps us kind of get there. Currently, our partner tribes at Chickasaw and Choctaw and Cherokee have initiated a lot of international tourism initiatives, and this would kind of help us get us on par with that, including a potential partnership with the Chickasaw Nation to include international tourists year to year annually that I know Mr. Ryan Logan has talked about previously. But this would essentially identify and pay for the feasibility on what the nation needs to do in terms of its tourism and marketing, what initiatives we needed to focus on, and what investments we might need to make and hit the ground running within a pretty short time frame. I believe it's a 12-month grant overall, but I think we're primed and ready to take the next steps forward.
Thank you, Mr. Harjo. Are there any questions from the committee? Are there any questions from the representatives online or in attendance? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Randall Hicks,
Yes.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman,
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. NCA 23-025 passes.
Moto.
Thank you, Mr. Harjo. NCA 23-026, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation amending NCA 14-029, a law of the Muskogee Creek Nation appropriating funds for the Muskogee Creek Nation Festival. Sponsor, Speaker William Lowe.
Madam Chair.
Motion to pass.
We have a motion for due pass from Representative Randolph. Have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Representative Hicks. Discussion?
Speaker Lowe.
Good afternoon, committee. Appreciate you hearing this bill. I'd like to give my time, with your permission, to Ryan Logan from Tourism, please.
Yes, sir.
Moto.
Mr. Logan?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Madam Chair. The budget you see before you, this is basically asking for an increase. It's been a few years since we've increased our budgets. After going through our current needs and where we were at, we're at the point now with the festival that we will either have to eliminate events or severely cut back, just with how costly everything has been, not only with regards to inflation, but we've added quite a few events since the last time we saw it increased appropriation.
Thank you, Mr. Logan.
Thank you, Mr. Logan.
Are there
Thank
any
you.
questions?
Are there any questions?
Representative Golden?
Representative Golden.
Madam Chair,
Madam Chair,
I would like explanation on the added amounts in the budget, increased amounts.
Mr. Logan?
Yes, so we did have a coordinators meeting. We went through and we gave out budgets. We had everyone come in and we started going through, can we move forward as we are with the current budgets? And so after speaking with the coordinators and one large meeting, it was kind of determined that we would need to significantly cut back to achieve all of these events. The new events, of course, we couldn't have, but like I said, we're in that portion now to, if we want to remain where we are, for instance, like if this was 2019, our current funding from 2019, we wouldn't be able to use this every single event just because things have increased. And so those numbers for each individual event, we worked with each one of the coordinators for those events and to say, what could they need? We actually asked them for what they could go get by with and have a good event for the next few years, so we don't have to keep coming back to council, but also what they would like to have. And the version in which they'd like to have was closer towards $1 million. It was more like 900,000 and some change. So we worked with the vendors and we tried to get that number as low as we possibly can to be good stewards of the nation's funds. But like I said, that's where all those increases came. So each one of those was working with the coordinator that put on the event the previous year.
Okay, I wanted more specifics, but I'll just name a few. And one is the Olympics, which is reduced. And entertainment is reduced, singing is reduced, fun fair is, no, stump dance. They're increased?
Yes,
So,
they're all
well, that's what I'm trying to get at, the differences of what the additions are that you put in here and why.
Oh, sure. I'll take one of the larger ones, like the fun fair. So this year, if we move forward with our current budget, they'll be at $60,000. Last year, they did have more considerable funds than that. when we do have cost savings or we do have extra funding, we do try to help offset these events. So for the past, I would say last few years, our fun fair has actually been costing more like $80,000. 60,000 is what they're budgeted to start with. And then again, we work with all the coordinators. So if we can find any types of savings, that's why some of these are very odd numbers. You know, like rodeo, for instance, has been at 69,000 versus 70. They originally asked for 70. We go through at the end of the fiscal year and say, how much of your funding did you use? If you don't use it all, then you don't need it all. And then we move it around. So with Fun Fair, for us to have the carnival rides and whatnot, they would need to be around $80,000. And so with those increases, that's where it went to 88,000. Last year, excuse me, in 2019, that's the best comparison. It was around $80,000 to perform the Fun Fair.
Okay, just one last thing, and that is you have a Christian concert that you're adding.
So, yes. Yeah, so that is those bottom three. If you can see where those are increases, they have zeros. We are looking at having a type of fellowship event, extending the festival into that Sunday. This year, we are scheduled to move some events to the third weekend, such as the rodeo, our horseshoes, our volleyball, just because of safety and crowd congestion. Citizens will be able to go to multiple events, but with moving those bigger events to the third weekend, we've allowed ourselves a little bit more room to grow. And so one of those areas with growth was having the type of fellowship concert, or excuse me, fellowship service, incorporating Christian music. So our goal is to see, you know, this year, this is a very smaller number, but we're hoping to have a type of Christian concert and a worship event on the Sunday, asking folks to come in for some good, you know, fellowship, spending some time together, but also after this next year, when we do our surveys, asking them, hey, was this something that was successful? Is this something that you would enjoy? Should we look for something that's larger? But we wanted to start smaller off so that way we could see if this is something that our citizens would enjoy, because most of these items did come from a survey that we performed after the last festival.
So it's not Creek Hymns, it's someone outside, like our
So,
Indian churches?
Yes, so as this event is in the budget, it would be a fellowship type service at the Muskogee Dome, and we'd be utilizing the Muskogee Dome for this. And so it's not as large as what like a national act utilizing the main stage. That is something we could do, but we're trying to find a way to not only be hospitable with such high temperatures in June. We usually have a lot of folks that after 2 days in the heat, we didn't know if they would be wanting to go outside for that third day. So we've planned this to be a morning event and has components that can be inside. So that way they can be, you know, air conditioned and be comfortable. But we are looking to see if they would be interested in future years for a Christian concert outside as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Logan. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions for Mr. Logan? Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Logan,
Yes.
why is there no budget for the golf tournament?
So the reason that those are at zeros is if the golf tournament seeks funding from the festival, which we're happy to provide, you know, provide those goodie bags and shirts and whatnot. If we pay for the food, then the revenue generated from the festival tournament also comes back to the festival. And so we do work with Fountainhead, but usually that tournament generates some funding. And so the past few years, we've just allowed Fountainhead to run that. And then we make sure to incorporate them like in volunteer shirts and whatnot. But the reason it's at zero is because sometimes it does create revenue, and we wanted to keep that at the golf course versus coming back to us.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if this was some of the feedback that was on the survey, but some of the information or some of the stuff that I heard during that tournament was the cost of the tournament versus the payout of the tournament. So just some FYI.
Thank you. I appreciate that information.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Hicks. Any other questions from the committee? Any questions from the representatives online or in attendance? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph,
Yes.
Patrick Freeman.
Yes.
Sandra Golden,
No?
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 1 against.
We have 3 in favor, 1 against. NCA 23-026 passes.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is referred legislation. We have NCA 23-023 and NCA 23-024. Ms. Killian, can you offer the funding source, please, on these?
Yes, for 23-023 is interest on permanent fund, and 23-024, it would be economic development land acquisition.
Okay, committee, you all heard the funding source. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve funding sources?
We have a motion from Representative Freeman to approve the funding sources. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second from Representative Hicks. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Patrick Freeman.
Yes.
Sandra Golden.
No.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 3 in favor and 1 against.
We have 3 in favor, 1 against. Funding source for NCA 23-023 and NCA 23-024 passes. Next item on the agenda is other business. And we have NCA.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. This is Chairman Ray.
Madam
Can you
Chair.
hear me?
Yes, sir. Representative Hicks?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I make a motion to go into executive session.
We have a motion from Representative Hicks to go into executive session. Do I have a second? We have a second from Representative Freeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Representative Hicks, who would you like to have stay in the meeting?
All we need online or present is National Counsel, our attorney, NCA Board, Pat Cross, Andy Langston, Second Chief. Don't need Mr. Deere, Mr. Wynn.
You said leave them in or put them in a waiting room?
We
don't need them. Okay, Mr. Deere, you're more than welcome to log off if you'd like, or you can hang on in the waiting room. It's up to you.
I'll just log off.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask Jerry Wisner a question, please.
Go ahead, sir.
Ms. Wisner, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I was looking at NCA 22-052, law of the Muskogee Creek Nation authorizing a lawsuit to be filed in federal court in the name of the Muskogee Creek Nation seeking relief on behalf of the nation and the Muskogee citizens against unlawful state taxation within the boundaries of the Muskogee Creek Nation Reservation and appropriating funds for this action. I think this is a law that was passed last year in April, signed at the 1st of May. And I'd like to know what the status of this law is, please.
Let me say that I would be happy to discuss if I believe we're out of executive session. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I would feel a lot more comfortable discussing in executive, or in any other form except in an open forum, because it is impacted by pending litigation. Hold on just a moment, because I know it's dependent on a matter that is not only scheduled on the Supreme Court of the state of Oklahoma, but depending on that will move some other matters, which have kind of been, how do I would feel a lot more comfortable in executive if that would satisfy for the moment, or I can explain better in executive. I just don't feel comfortable in doing it in an open forum. However, happy to share updates.
Make a motion, we go into executive session.
We have a motion from Representative Randolph to go into executive session. We have a second from Representative Golden. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mark Randolph.
Yes.
Patrick Freeman. Sandra Golden.
Yes.
Randall Hicks.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you got 4 in favor and 0 against.
We have 4 in favor, 0 against. We are in executive session. I just want to say that I was made aware that we have not received a funds available report from the from Ms. Killian, and she actually logged off. And April sent her a text and told her we were wanting one. So I asked her to start providing those each month for us every Friday before our meeting. So that should be taken care of. Any other business? Hearing none, we are going to announcements. Are there any announcements? Representative Golden?
The graduation for the Creek College is tomorrow at 10 a.m. Did the location change?
I believe it is now at the Dome. Yeah, it's at the
Correct.
Dome.
10 a.m. at the Dome.
Okay, 10 a.m. at the Dome. Any other announcements? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? We have a motion to adjourn from Representative Hicks. Do I have a second? We have a second from Representative Freeman. Representative Hicks, if you'll provide the benediction, please. Thank you, Representative Hicks. We are adjourned at 4:19.